Our next storyteller is a writer, a defense investigator, and he was the Sun City Desk editor back in the time, 70s. And please welcome Jerry Mosier.
I brought 5 years worth of notes, and then I was told I was supposed to wing it, but that's okay. For the past 5 years, I've spent more than half of my time living in Mexico, the state of Sonora, the little village of San Carlos, a suburb of Guaymas, with side trips to the wilds of Veracruz and the wilder wilds of Mexico City and Nicaragua, which is not in Mexico, but I always wanted to go there. It's one of the other places we sent our Marines. So I thought I should go just to balance out things there. I'm a semi-retired and self-unemployed journalist. I don't say journalist in Mexico because that's one of the most dangerous jobs we have down there. Will Rogers once said that if you read the news, if you don't read the news, you're uninformed. And if you do read the news, you're misinformed. Last year when I came back about this time to Colorado, I asked everyone that I knew or that I met, college-educated, bright, well-read people, what they knew about Fast and Furious. Well, they knew that was a series of Vin Diesel movies. Today, you know something a little different, but at the time, a year ago, I could see Eric Holder squirming on Televisa or Azteca, my little Mexican television channels. And then I go downtown to my favorite gringo watering hole where 24 hours a day they have this channel up there owned by Rupert Murdoch and the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. I see nothing about Fast and Furious. What I see is 4 talking heads up there talking over each other about a poll that they've just taken. You don't need reporters anymore, you just take a poll. You see. No need to report the news, just poll the people you have left uninformed on what they think. Makes the job pretty easy. We could be a reality TV show and have our own network right here. My favorite poll question at that time, now I didn't take logic in college. I only went to college a couple of days so that my brother wouldn't be counted absent. And so I missed that Logic 101 class, but the poll question that sticks in my mind was, if the election were held today, would you vote for President Obama or a generic Republican? Now, at the time, I didn't know what a generic Republican was. I didn't know we'd had those since Barry Goldwater was around, but probably no one remembers him. But this sort of confused me. I keep Yahoo on my home page because I figure that's as bad as any of them. And Yahoo Mexico, I could see Rapido and Furioso, and Eric Holder squirming. You know, I click over to Yahoo USA, and I am aghast to learn that Lady Gaga is having dietary problems. and Justin Bieber had gotten a new tattoo. Well, 2 new ones actually. I know that you're vitally interested in that revelation. In Little San Carlos, there's quite a community of expatriate Americanos and Canadians. Got a joke on the Canadians that they tell down there. Do you know the difference between a Canadian and a canoe? Well, canoes will tip. Where was it? I was picking on Canadians. Okay. Well, if you get all of your news from television, there's some things you may have missed. In that region, the expatriates, we have learned to either ignore all of the emails from our friends and relatives asking us if we've been decapitated or that sort of stuff. My usual response is, you know, if you're scared of coming to Mexico, quit watching television because it's still Mexico, okay? The danger spots are well known. You know, I'm thinking after we leave here, go up to the 5 Points in Denver and hit a few bars. That's sure I'd be safe there. There are 17 states in this country which have a higher per capita murder rate than the entire country of Mexico. The per capita murder rate in Mexico City, one of the largest and poorest cities in the world, is 2.2 persons per 100,000 population. In our capital, Washington, D.C., it's 10 times that, 22 murders per 100,000 people. But that really isn't what I came here to talk about. I am a journalist, and I kept hearing all these bad things about Mexico. I always loved Mexico, but I hadn't been there for a while. And I had long planned to retire there. Maybe it was all those Western movies back in the 40s and 50s with Cati Gerardo and Chiquita Rivera and that sort of thing. But I have managed to retire more or less in Mexico. Actually, I'm there, if I can borrow a corny line from a TV commercial of recent years, I'm there because it reminds me of my childhood. I grew up in Texas and Oklahoma, and it was a time when small children weren't afraid of me when they would engage. They would make jokes, and they would tease. The parties in Mexico are still family affairs, and you may remember this time in our own country when children outnumbered adults at a party. How many children do we have here? I don't know how many. But
an adult child.
Good for you. It's still that way in Mexico. People walk great distances, and so do I. I enjoy walking, and people watching is my favorite thing to do. The people smile. If they don't speak first, they will certainly return a greeting. I have the feeling there that there still exists a degree of humanity that we have sort of lost in this country. I love this country, but I sometimes have the feeling that it's no longer my country and I'm not the one who changed. But let's forget all of that. In Mexico, I feel better, for one thing. They eat up their entire food supply every 3 days. That's what they have in the pipeline. Very few pesticides and that sort of things. They have a 12-month growing season, so there's always something fresh, and there's oceans on both sides of the thing, so you've got a lot of fresh fish. The first little house I rented was in an arroyo. I didn't pay much attention to the fact that it was in an arroyo. But September 2009, I experienced my first hurricane, Huracán Jimena. The Mexicans universally believe that gringos are crazy. Some of them love us, some of them hate us, but they all agree that we're crazy, and we are, particularly the ones who go down there and live. And when a hurricane warning is given, all of the Mexicans batten down, and the gringos get together and have a party. Welcome in the hurricane. Well, I was in my little house, and I'd been given a puppy to puppy sit for a friend who was afraid that when the hurricane hit, she wouldn't be able to get back to her house. So I had a puppy and a 6-pack of Negro Modelo. The rains, the wind wasn't really all that bad. It blew a few roofs off, but that's nothing new down there. But what was bad was 36 of the hurricane stalled out over us, just to our north, right up against the mountains. And we had 36 hours of straight torrential rains, and that caused flooding. The water began to creep up over my little steps, so I placed a towel down there. Then I put a heavy blanket down there. That wasn't going anywhere. So it just kept kind of coming up and up and up, and then a wall of water came down, wham, broke my neighbor's door down. I had agua por mi mano. I had water up to here in my house. They had another foot beyond that because they were a little deeper in the arroyo than I. Well, when the water hit their house, they'd been trying to keep the water out. Well, it broke the door in. It hit that fast. Sylvia shouted out the window, "Geronimo, let's go in your car." Well, I had a Chevy Tahoe at the time, and by the time I got a half a block distance to a little higher ground, I had 11 Mexicanos, a puppy, and a 15-year-old cat in my car. Two of the Mexicanos had dirty diapers. They were little ones. We had no real place to go. I was receiving directions from all directions, and we weren't going anywhere anyway. Derecho was straight ahead, derecha is to the right. Well, where there's derecho, derecha, I wasn't going to go anywhere. And finally I said, mi camioneta no es un barco, it ain't a boat, we just can't get out of here. So the water receded, and my neighbor says, okay, the best spot is on the refrigerator. So we made it back into the house. No, don't put stuff on the top of your refrigerator unless it's full of beer, or leave the door open. But there was a little lull in the flooding, we went back in, took all of my computer equipment, my books, put them on top of the fridge. Here comes another wall of water, there was nothing in the fridge. Well, of course, the refrigerator floats. The only thing I lost, the only thing that Antonio lost was all the stuff on the top of the refrigerator. Don't do that. If you're ever in a flood, don't build this stuff on the refrigerator. Well, we escaped with our lives, and one of the people in my car, their grandfather had a rental house that was empty, so we made it to high ground. We spent 2 or 3 days there because it was still raining and you couldn't go anywhere. We were well stocked with peanuts and sardines and cerveza clandestina. The Mexican government, in an emergency like that, they stopped alcohol sales, but we had that covered. You have to know the right people. We also had fresh water, but that didn't stop. Well, the wind wasn't that bad, and even the rain wasn't that bad. The flooding was bad, but what was really bad was the mud that came with the flood. And worse than that was what the mud was mixed with, you see, because as my little neighbor Sylvia was explaining, that when the water gets high enough above the outlet to the septico going down there. Well, my Spanish isn't all that great, but I'm an old country boy. I understand septico. And she further tells me that since we have the same landlord, both of our houses are on the one septico that goes into the main septico. Well, I was tired. We had been 5 days without a shower with minimum food. Everybody having different varying degrees of Montezuma's revenge. And when I'm like that, something happens to my editing device. And she's explaining to me that both our houses are on the same septico. And my ears hear my mouth saying, ah, sí, mi caca es su caca. Stories are told about Hurricane Amena in San Carlos. That story is part of the folklore there. My first year there, I'm not getting in trouble on building things. I took a lot of tools, and I built on my roof. I built a couple of little palapitas, and then I built a taco cart. I built a taco cart in Mexico. Like I could take it home with me. They don't have enough taco carts in Mexico. So when I came home that summer, shortly later, I got an email from my neighbor Antonio, and he said, "We miss your tools at my home." And so I shot back and said, "Hey, you got the key to my house. Go get whatever you need." And he came back and said, "We miss the sound of your tools." Interesting things during that hurricane. What I found out that the Mexicans don't see every gringo the same way. There were guys who were expecting their Mexican helpers to show up and clean their house, and they abandoned their regular employees to come over and bail me out. And so I've got debts down there that I can't hardly pay to my Mexican neighbors. My second house is now in a little place called Lomas del Mar. It's an Infonavit, a Mexican barrio, government-supported thing, and then once the Mexicans have their house, they can rent it. There are 90 houses, 4 and 3 feet apart, like that. One road in, one road out. Macapuli Canyon is in my backyard, so I've got all the hiking area that I need. That canyon was filled with water to the doorstep of my current house. I'm one of 3 gringos in the Infonavit of 90 little houses. A lot of children of all ages who play together. In the 2 years I've been there, I have yet to see a fight or even a loud argument between children or husband and wife or anyone else. It's a pretty peaceable place. I like it because every day in Mexico I see something that makes my eyes pop and puts a smile on my face or makes me shake my head. So a family of 5 on a 125 motorcycle one day. With luggage, by the way. 2 small boys in front on the gas tank helping steer, Dad in the saddle, and Mom in the saddle, and I see there's a small baby jam between Mom and Dad, and then a duffel bag tied across in the back. I felt bad because the kid was looking to see my bike and damn near wrecked. I said, you know, you got a family there. I'll show you my bike later. I looked out my window one day, and one of my favorite kids, Gabriella, she's 11 or 12, and kind of the leader of the girl and boy gang there. The houses are built of what they call a trio, which is a fired brick, but it's a soft brick. About the same size as these bricks, only a little longer, and about the same mortar joint, 3/8 to a half an inch. Gabriella is climbing the building across the street, pulls herself up on the parapet and looks down at the other kids. She's using just fingers and fingertips and toes, and then she comes back down, and the boy starts poking at her with a stick to try to make her fall. She bounces off, spins in air, lands on her feet like a cat, and starts chasing him. She could have caught him, but she just wanted to show him that she could. One day I saw a couple of boys on another one of those Italica 125 motorcycles. They were either going to work or just delivering a wheelbarrow. One kid is riding. The passenger has his toes hooked somewhere in the frame of the bike, and then behind him he's dragging the wheelbarrow back. God, if OSHA could see that. If OSHA could see that. We have 2 little tiendas, stores. One is just right to my right, another one across the way, and then on weekends there's a hot dog stand at Lomas Del Mar. One day, a gentleman that I recognized as a relative, maybe a son of the little lady who ran the tienda, showed up with a helper in a pickup truck, and he had in the back of it what they call a caracol, which is you see them all over Mexico, they're a welded iron staircase. It's spiral, named after the caracol seashell. They're fairly small, tight. They put them on the outside of houses. They have a caracol in the back of their pickup truck, and his mom's little store has video games and stuff blocking their passageway on the other side. So he asked if I would open my puertas to let him go through between my house and the tienda and put it in her backyard. And I looked at it. You know, I've done some construction, and I can see that the front part of my opening is 4 feet. It narrows down to about 3 feet or 1 meter at the back. Well, this caracol is a little less than 4 feet in diameter. I can see that. And I said, well, see, I'll open the puerta, but, you know, es menos espacio atrás. I'm not going to go. Well, they smile and they're chattering and asking me about my motorcycle because they're backing out of the way to get it out of the road. And I try again, you know, it's not going to go through back there. They ignore that too. Well, I enjoy a good job site chuckle as much as the next guy. I leaned on the wall to watch them. Well, they're still chattering away, and they bring the caracol through the wide part. When they get to the narrow part, they start rotating it like a giant corkscrew and just slid it right through the small opening. I shut my mouth. But watching men and boys work down there is like we did in the 50s in this country. It's one of my favorite things to do. The adult age is 14. When you're 14, you can be drafted or you can go get a real job out there working with the real guys. When Hurricane Jimena hit, it peeled up pavement like it was an old Band-Aid. Of course, the pavement's only 3/4 of an inch thick, but it peeled it up, and that provides a lot of work to put it back in again. Instead of putting 3 guys on $3 billion worth of yellow and orange equipment, we had 300 guys with shovels and wheelbarrows and pickup trucks. A lot of the roads were blocked, and as the rains receded, the pickup trucks with men and boys and shovels began to go like ants, looking for a path. One would make it through, and then another. And eventually those became new roads that weren't there before. The state came in about a week after the hurricane and pumped out the septic holes, and they gave everyone a squeegee and a 5-gallon bucket. I didn't get one of those. I guess gringos don't really rate like that. They get the squeegee and a 5-gallon bucket. Anyway, those are some of my wild adventures in Mexico. Here I am without my notes. But, I would like to say one word about the Zetas, which you hear so much about down there, and crossing the border. The Zetas are the most vicious of the drug cartels. They were trained as an elite Mexican military unit at, guess where, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And then when they went back to Mexico, they right away deserted the Mexican army and hired on as the enforcement branch of the Gulf Cartel. Then they double-crossed the Gulf Cartel, went into business for themselves, and now the Gulf Cartel has allied with the Sinaloa Cartel in order to wipe out the Zetas, and that's what the fighting is about. As one of our little crew cut guys from the consulate in Hermosillo said, mostly it's bad guys killing bad guys, and they're very specific about that. The violence isn't random, it's well directed, and you know where it's going to happen. We have an electronic board down there, vivasancarlos.mx, if you want to click on it. The Mexican host, whenever we receive those State Department warnings, publishes a thing in its entirety. Well, I read one of those, and gee, the first 4 paragraphs are like 60,000 killed here and decapitation token. Now, I'm a newsman. If it was a lead in that story, it's in the 5th paragraph, which says that in the last year, 12 months, 135 Americans have been murdered in Mexico. That's a few busy weekends up here in some of our inner cities. I mean, I know it's a tragedy for those 135 families, but believe me, you've got 1 million people visiting every year, or 12 million visiting, 1 million living there, Mexican Americans. You're going to find 135 knuckleheads who deserve to get killed in a year. I've seen a bunch of them operating, and I'm surprised that they're still breathing the way they conduct themselves. But anyway, I see the 5-minute more than 1 minute one, so I can start talking slower or make something else up. I thank you for listening. If you have any questions about Mexico, I can misinform you as well as the mainstream media. And thank you for listening.